Hello and welcome to another Final Cut Pro 10 tutorial. In this tutorial we will be looking at keying, chroma keying, green screen effect, whatever you want to call it. I guess the proper word is chroma key. That is to use a particular colour to pull a matte in which we can isolate a particular colour and remove it from the image so that we can leave ourselves with a particular element. So if we look in this instance, we've got footage courtesy of videocopilot.net. Go and check out their After Effects basic training series. You can see we've got Tino, I think it is, walking in front of green screen and then jumping back. Bam! Like a madman. And then we've also got an alleyway. It's the pictures from Flickr. The link is in the description. Obviously the picture isn't ideal, it's not widescreen, it's missing a few things, but you can see that we've managed to pull effectively not too bad a key. I mean, obviously we haven't managed to match the subject to the background plate perfectly, but what we do have is the actual key. You can see that he has actually been removed from the green screen quite effectively, and that is the purpose of the tutorial, not to match him to the background like a Hollywood movie. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and take a look at a few things we need to think about. So let's just grab our footage, just put it into our main storyline, and you can scrub through. We can see that an issue straight away is that we've actually got these edges around here. So how do we get rid of them? Well, we use the mask effect. Now at the moment masks are only supported with a 4-point effect. So if we just go ahead and grab the mask and put it on top of our footage, you can see that it's removed some of the corners. By the way, if you can't see mask, make sure you click on Show Effects Browser and then go to Keying, and then if we show the inspector, you can see we've now got these corners here, and we can move them accordingly. Don't want to move them too much because you can see there's a bit of background here, it's at a bit of an angle. But these go down to the bottom. And you can see now we've isolated our character a little bit better. We might have to scale it up. In fact, what we can do is if we do the transform effect, make sure you check out my tutorial on transforming, and we can scale him to kind of fit the scene so that he doesn't look like he's walking from absolutely nowhere. Bam, and he jumps back. Excellent. And the second effect we're going to be getting is the keyer. And you can see if we actually use the skimmer to skim over this, it's actually going to do a very good key straight off the bat without us having to do too much. You can see that it is a form of witchcraft, and it's making us look very talented when in fact we've just drag and dropped something. However, we did spend the money for the software, but that's not talent, that's wealth. It's a big difference. And you can see we've got a few sliders here we can play around with. You can see we've got our sample colour. If we just quickly consider these sliders, obviously first of all is the original image, then we've got our actual image with the key pulled, and here we can actually see the matte that we are pulling, and we can examine what we're doing in any of these three views. If we just actually look at the original matte and then check the sample colour, sorry, if we just click transform effect just so we can go to our sample colour, and we can drag a square. We could be like, this is it, this is our sample area, and then we could also take a look at the edges and just say what basically you want to do. If we just zoom in, say 300%, and by the way, you can see this little thing here, that is basically showing you where you are on your viewport. So if we actually grab that, you can see we can actually move around our zoomed in image, and we can just draw this in like that, and you can say that this is where the edge ends, this is actually the edge, and this is where we are now in matter, and it's just going to create some sort of feathering system. You can see if we go into our matte there, it's gonna, you can see that here is solid, here is where the edge really wants to end, and it's going to feather it out to there if need be. So let's look at our final image. You can see it's looking quite nice. But another artifact that we're getting is these kind of green edges around him. Now if we see we've got a spill level, if we just boost it up, you can see what it's going to start to do is invert the colour at the edges, but inwards. So it will start at the edges and kind of crush out an opposite colour to the actual key. So it's going to go a bit of a purpley colour. By the way, the reason blue screen is often more used if you've got a character subject is because blue is the direct colour opposite of skin tone. So if you use a blue matte, obviously it's easier to spill suppress because it is a direct opposite of the skin colour. And we can obviously refine the edge distance. It was fine sort of how it was. Fill holes, let's say we had a few issues where we were getting a few gaps, say here, because it had just knocked off some of the elbow, then you can obviously fill that hole back in. But we don't want to do that because our key is fine. And if we just go back to fit and scrub through, you can see we've now got a character essentially on a zero background. Oh, by the way, as you can see by these marks only on this frame, the sample color and edge is relative to the frame you've actually pointed them out on. So let's say something actually goes over that spot somewhere else in the timeline, it won't have any effect on the sample you've pulled. It's just analysing the still frame. So now that we've got a character, we can add in a background. So we've got this fantastic alleyway. Just going to drag it on underneath the storyline. We can put it underneath. We don't have to make this the main storyline and then put this on top. That's what's good about the new flexible timeline in Final Cut. And then as you can see, we're clearly getting a bit of an issue here. What we can do, we can check just to see that we haven't actually dipped the opacity. And you can see the opacity is still at 100%, so it's definitely something to do with our keyer. Is it something to do with our edges? It appears it may have been. We just zoom back in. You can see that'll pull a much nicer area. If you have this line, like the line of the edge, too close, then it will freak out. There you go, and you can see we've now fixed that. You can see it kind of disappears as it goes off towards the edge. You can see we're actually creating an animated sample by accident. And obviously these mistakes do happen. I mean, generally I edit mistakes like this out because I often have my dull moments, but I think obviously the key thing is to troubleshoot. You can see that the jump to sample is causing us issues. So if we just reset parameter, if we just reset the entire thing and pump this back up, and so now we've given ourselves back to what we had but without the transparency. Okay, so now that we've got our image on, we want to try and match it slightly to the background. Now, one of the things to bear in mind is that to get a good key, you really need to plan well. I mean, it's all good saying, oh, we'll match the image to the foreground to the background in post, but when you actually come to it, you're going to face a lot of issues. I mean, you can see the lighting doesn't match the actual scene. There's so many issues that you need to think about when you're filming, and you need to make sure that your lighting for your green screen is good. And that is, I'd say, about 70% of the key. The post-production stuff is entirely relevant to how well you've actually planned it. So what we can try and do is color correct them both. So if we just take the plate first, if we select the top footage and press V, that's then just going to ignore that top footage. And then we can go to our background plate and go into color correction. And what we're going to do is just give it a very obvious bluey tint, just so it makes it slightly easier to match. So you can see we've got a very hard contrast as well, which will also go quite nicely. And if we then reveal our image again, press V for, I don't know, Victor, Sort of boost the exposure a little. You can see obviously he needs to have his blue tint. What we can even do is move the main thing over to where it was and just dip it a little bit. You can see what I'm actually doing. If you could watch my color correction tutorial, by dipping our color sliders into the lower half, you're basically telling it to do the opposite of whatever it's actually on. So let's say we went opposite red, it's going to obviously go bright blue, opposite green, purple apparently. If you just dip the overall tone very slightly, that's just going to get rid of some of the red that you can see is dominating the image a little bit. And there you go, you can see very quickly we've created something that, obviously it's not a blockbuster effect, but we've created an image that at least the colour tones match, but obviously the actual lighting and the way it's working with the character is very different to the background. I mean, I wanted to do this tutorial, I want to try and cover everything with Final Cut Pro. That is the aim of my Final Cut series. However, one of the problems you're going to face is that some stuff you really do need to do in a visual effects compositing application. I mean, you could do a better job in Motion. Motion's got a few more tools that are aimed at this sort of thing. But for pulling a quick key, let's say we just needed to quickly see if this shot was going to work. Obviously, you can see that this has taken us. I mean, if I imagine when you do things in Final Cut, you don't have to explain them as you're going along, so it will be even quicker. So you could do this key in about 3 or 4 minutes if you're quick. I'm sure you can. And then quickly see if the shot's going to work. If it does, you can then send it off to the visual effects department. You may be the visual effects department, in which case you can be like, yeah, that shot's going to be good, and then you can go through and touch it up later. Or obviously if you're working with a bigger crew, you can be like, yeah, this shot is the one I want to work, send off the footage, and then they're going to work on the shot and then send you back a completed shot, and you've got a very good placeholder. And obviously remember that you can select all these clips and create a new compound clip, and bam, look at that, a single clip. And then you can even adjust obviously everything together, the color correction of the entire clip, which is lovely. And remember to double click, you can then go back into it, and it works a bit like an embedded composition in After Effects if you're used to that. So thank you very much for watching, hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you thoroughly enjoyed it, remember there is a wonderful donation page, link below, on my official website. And coming out at the end of next month is my brand new short film, which you're probably bored of by now, as I keep on using the material to make these tutorials, which is husky.danallenfilms.com, and you can follow the progress and check out the behind the scenes, which are also on my YouTube channel. So thanks for watching. Kudos to the photographer who took this amazing alleyway shot, and Video Copilot for the great footage. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.